Hi everyone, welcome back to JoanneTechLover. I'm Joanne, and today I'll be covering this Phanteks Enthoo Evolv PC case. It'll be available in black, white, or gray, like this one. Anyway, what I really love about it is how much thick aluminum you get on all the panels all around the case. Here's a look at what comes in the box. Of course, we have the user manual, and what I like about the Phanteks guides is that they're very thorough. So they tell you exactly what to put where and get a list of the specs at the front. But moving right along, here is a pump bracket with rubber dampeners on this edge as well as on the back. This is of course to help reduce vibration and noise for those of you who are going with more of a custom setup. And next to that is the 5¼ inch drive mounting bracket for those who need one. I really like that they included this because you could just do without it, but if you really needed one, you can go ahead and install this in the rear of your PC, which is very unique, but very nice touch there. And here are your power LEDs. So it comes with a standard one, but you could switch it to blue, green, or red, and definitely something that they, were thinking about the user if you wish to pair the color with what's going on in your case. And here we have a bunch of zip ties. Nice. I always like to hoard those. Oh, one more. As well as a Velcro tie. Now, last but not least, we have this compartment of mounting screws. Now, if you happen to use all of it, and it's just good for holding other things if you want to, but mostly I would probably just use it for screws. Here's a closer look at the case, and as you can see, you get this full aluminum exterior, which is just fancy, and you get a steel interior. And what I like about it is that each sheet is just very, very thick. Now for a look at the dimensions. This case measures 230 millimeters or 9 inches wide by 450 millimeters or 17.7 inches tall by 400 millimeters or 15.7 inches deep, and it weighs in at 9 kilograms or 19.8 pounds. So for a mini case, this is very heavy. You get a rather clean look at the front with a few indents up at the top and bottom and just a very minimalistic LED strip on the bottom. That's for the power. Now to remove the front cover, simply pull on the edges and it should just come out. There it is. Ha! This thing is so sturdy. But here's a look at the other side. Now then, there is also a dust filter that you can pull back. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's easy to remove, but it's not like it's flimsy. It's actually quite put together. Now, on the inside, you'd think that this would be where you would put the 5¼ inch, but it's not. You can install a front radiator up here, but let me go ahead and go down here to the LED. So that is the power LED that you can just unplug right here and swap out for the other colors that are available in the accessories that I mentioned, which is definitely a perk. Now as for the fan, they've included one 200 millimeter fan for you. This is a PHF 200 SP fan, a Phanteks fan, and at 850 RPM, or you could install up to two 120 millimeter or two 140 millimeter fans, and as for radiator support, up to 240 millimeters or 140 millimeters. But you'll need to remove this mid-plate cover that's like on the inside. I'll show you in a bit, which is kind of like part of the power supply shroud area, and also the drive cage beneath that in order to install that 240 millimeter radiator. But keep in mind that if you install the 240 radiator up at the front, it also affects the graphics card clearance. Let's turn the case so you can get a better look at the side panel window. And what I like about this design is that it covers this area of the case, which usually houses the hard drive cages, and there's not really too much to see there. And I see a lot more case companies incorporating this kind of like half window design, which is pretty awesome. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the rear of the case. Here we are, and over here, this is the area where you go ahead and include the 5¼ inch drive bracket if you wish to install an optical drive. And very interesting that it's in the rear of the case, so you'll definitely need to leave some room there in order to use it. Now to remove this cover, you have to remove these two screws on the sides. It's very, very simple. Now beneath that, we have a knockout for your I/O shield of your motherboard, and next to that, a pre-installed 140 millimeter fan. This is a PHF 140 SP fan at 1200 RPM. And you can also install 120 if you want, but I'd probably keep the 140. But what I like is that you get these long slotted mounting points. You can orient your fan higher or lower depending on where you wish to direct the airflow. And beneath that, you have 4 expansion slots, some more ventilation holes, and a bottom power supply mount. And you'll notice on the inside that there are these foam feet for helping to reduce vibration when you install your power supply. And there's a dust filter for where your power supply goes, which is always a nice touch. Now, one last thing is these 2 things, well, there's 4 of them for your side panel. So do not remove these screws. They do not need to be removed in order for you to take off the panel, because it's simply just lift the panel off the hinges and you're good to go. Finally, let's take a look at the buttons and ports on the right side. So over here near the top, we have the power button and reset button, and then beneath that we have the headphone and mic jacks, and I like that they include this little sticker here for you so you know exactly which is which since they're not color coded. And then beneath that you get 2 USB 3.0 ports. You get more of that clean design at the top of the case, as well as some ventilation strips here and along this edge. Now let's go ahead and remove the top panel. Same thing, actually I'm gonna do it this way, that would be easier. There it is. But here's another look at the top panel. Here's what it looks like with the top cover off. And as for fan options, you can go ahead and install 2 120s or 2 140mm fans and radiators up to 240mm or 280. So this is a place to install your longer radiators. And the radiator clearance is 58mm to the motherboard, enough space for a slim radiator and 1 set of fans. Now let's go ahead and move along to the bottom of the case. Some raised feet where you get some airflow, and of course some ventilation spots for where the power supply goes, and the dust filter actually goes here. And here's a dust filter that goes at the bottom of the case. And of course there are also rubberized feet to help reduce vibration and keep this unit in place too. Let's take a look at the right side of the case, and I'm going to show you how to remove the panel so it's not confusing. So pull out from the front first, like this, and you can see it swings open because it's on the hinges. And all you have to do is lift up. Ta-da! Alrighty, now for a closer look at the innards. So I'm going to start off with the foam padding actually. Get some on the edges, probably helps with the vibration and all that, and you get some on the other side as well. And there's also 24mm of space right here for cable management, so I think that's pretty decent. This case is compatible with Mini-ITX or Micro-ATX motherboards, and you also get this ginormous cutout for aftermarket heatsink, so it makes swapping in and out much easier. As well as rubber grommets all around, and I'd say these are pretty good quality. And you also get tie-down points, and they've organized some of the cables for you, as well as given you some Velcro ties. And now let's take a look at this section. Beneath the cutout, we have mounting points for 2 2.5-inch drives, and they've included a mounting bracket here for you, but you can go ahead and purchase another one if you wish to install 2 of them side by side. Now it's really easy to remove. All you have to do is slide this up and it just comes out just like this. Install your drive and slide it back on. Here's a look at the cables that come with this case. Of course, you get the power, reset, and LED plugs, HD audio, and 20-pin USB 3 header. Now this over here is a PWM fan hub. You can control the speed of up to 11 3-pin fans at 30 watts total, and you're thinking, oh, there's only 6 connectors, but I'm sure you can go ahead and use a Y splitter. Now then, they want you to connect the 4-pin connector on the hub onto the CPU fan connector on the motherboard, because if you try to connect it to another 4-pin connector, you might not get that PWM signal. Beneath that is the SATA connector to power this unit. Of course, you plug that into your power supply. The last thing on the right side is this drive cage down here, which you can remove by removing screws on the bottom as well as on the inside of the case. And you can go ahead and install up to 2 3.5-inch drives or 2.5-inch drives, and just go ahead and open the latch on the sides before you install the drive. And if you wish to remove this cage entirely, which is just taking off these 2 brackets here on the sides, you can go ahead and install a pump at the base of the case. I've removed the 8 screws that are keeping the hard drive cage down, and I'm gonna remove these, but these are really just gonna come apart. And here you go, one side of the hard drive cage and the other. This is like harder to move. Oh, okay, there it is. There, boom. I removed the left side cover so we can go ahead and take a look at the interior. Here's another look at the rear 140mm fan, and this case comes with pre-installed standoffs for a Micro-ATX board, just FYI if you were like maybe wanting to use a Mini-ITX or something like that. And there's more of that foam along the edges, just like on the other side. And this is something very interesting. This is just a thinnish panel for installing either two 2.5-inch drives or one 3.5-inch drives, but it has multiple uses, as you can tell by all of these holes here. You can go ahead and install a reservoir or a pump. I mean, they've got you covered. And this is the mid plate that goes over the power supply, and you'll notice like this area is covered, so that's where your cables go, so you can go ahead and hide all of those power supply and other cables when you are building. And you can go ahead and remove this plate by taking off these 4 screws here, and behind it is a small mid-plate cover that you can go ahead and remove, so you can install a 240mm radiator or that pump if you wish to keep it there. I've removed this drive mount panel, and it just comes off just like this. And here's a look at the mid-plate I was talking about. There are 2 thumb screws that I'm going to quickly remove. So this is where you can access some of that space beneath, of course without the hard drive tray there, but here is a closer look at the plate. And now for a look at the clearance. The CPU cooler height is up to 192mm or 7.5 inches. And for the graphics card, you can install one of 318mm in length or 12.5 inches. And one last thing is the power supply. So you have a clearance of 215mm or 8.4 inches. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons. So what do I like about this case? I like all of that external aluminum finish. This is a heavy case for its size, and it's also very sturdy with its thick panels. I also prefer cases with windows, so that's a plus in my book. And there's plenty of space for water cooling up front and at the top. And I like that there are multiple positions to install the reservoir and pumps. Also, for those who prefer to have an optical drive, there's that option too with a bracket. And the fan hub is always a welcome addition. And it's cool that you can change up your power LED color. And now for the cons. You should probably be careful with some of the edges because they are sharp. I think I cut my thumb like twice or something. And while the panels can be removed relatively easily, replacing them on the hinges takes a bit of work. You have to like position it just right. And the positioning of the power reset as well as audio and USB ports on the right side could be a bit of a stretch if you prefer keeping your system on your right side. Also, a con for some is that you can't disassemble it like the other Enthoo series, like the Lux or the Pro, because it's mostly held in by rivets, but some of you might not care. And so to conclude, the Evolv is a great little premium case to build in and show off. It's a bit heavy for my taste, but I may need to work out more. That wraps up the video on this Phanteks Enthoo Evolv PC case. If you like what you saw and you want to see more like it, be sure to hit the like, comment, and subscribe buttons, as well as follow me on social media. JoanneTechLover Facebook fan page, JoanneTechLover again on Twitter, and JoanneTechLover once more on Instagram. Also, please don't forget to hit the donate button so it can help expand this channel and feed this techie. One last thing is Storenvy.com, where you can go ahead and purchase my 8.5 by 11-inch autograph prints. I guess all that's left to say is, mwah! See you next time!